Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this week's video, I am going to present some time-lapse footage that I shot of the track laying process while I was last in Minnesota working on the Missabe Western railroad build. Now, this video was shot over about a 1.5 day period. I wasn't able to complete the second day because the camera just cut out completely and refused to restart. I didn't even know until the end of the day that it had in fact stopped working. But at least we have the process recorded for one end of the freight yard area. So let's turn that camera on again and take a look. The first thing I'm going to be doing in this video is to install the roadbed in the entry area to the freight yard at the near end. I'd already installed the roadbed along the main lines around the end curve and halfway down the back the night before. You may have seen me pull the tape off when I first started this video, but now I'm cutting and fitting pieces in under all the turnouts at this end of the yard and extending the roadbed on the main line down the back. And as you can see, the benchwork that I built is plenty strong enough for me to climb onto. It has to be, because on a layout like this, there are a few areas which are a lot easier to reach that way. And then I'm working around the end curve at the back of the layout and onto the temporary turnback curves, joining up with the roadbed that Chris had laid a few days previously. Now, when Chris came in this morning, I spent a few minutes to explain what I wanted him to do that day. And now he's out of the view of the camera, because the first thing he's got to do is prep a whole load of ties to fit in the areas where they're missing. Meanwhile, I'm working on the roadbed at the far end. And now I'll come back to the near end of the layout again, where you can see I've unpacked a box of turnouts and I'm now fitting them into place, making sure that they fit. I'm starting right in the middle of that mass of turnouts, on the crossover that enters the yard, which also includes the double slip. And there's a few minor adjustments to make. Some of the turnouts have to be trimmed slightly, or the ends have to be unsoldered, so I can adjust the exit radius on the curved turnouts slightly. And then once I'm happy that everything fits, I solder the turnouts together. And I typically install them 2 or 3 at a time. I want to minimize the number of feeders that I have to install. And now I'm working my way down towards the camera, fitting in the curved crossover between the 2 main lines. Curved crossovers are always the most critical to get to fit. By comparison, straight turnouts are pretty straightforward. While I'm doing this, Chris is putting all the missing ties in under the rail joints. And now I've got the first 4 turnouts installed and glued down. You see the Mountain Dew cans come out to use as weights. And you may have seen that flash of blue light as I was drilling into the benchwork to make the holes to install more switch machines. Now I've gone back around the other side, and you can see I'm starting to prepare track to put around the end curves. And just as I was about to install that first piece, I realized that there was a hump in the roadbed. It wasn't very much. I didn't even notice it earlier when I took the tape off, but it was enough to prevent the track laying down flat, so I had to take care of it. I instead installed a much shorter length of track, and I cut out that piece and re-glued it. I gave it a little bit of time to set up, and then I came back with some more track and laid it around over the top of it. And then after that, there was no more problems. As you probably see from the video, on lengthy areas between turnouts, especially on curves, I joined the flex track together in pairs, so I got 6 foot lengths. That minimises the number of joints that I have to deal with on curves. Then I'm just working my way down around the back. And once one main line is in, I go back to the turnouts in the yard ladder, prepping them and installing them a few at a time. Now you see me drilling the holes for the switch machines. I'm putting the glue onto the turnouts, gluing them down, and then fill in the odd pieces of plain track between them before continuing down further into the yard ladder. Now I'm getting Chris started on the track laying around the temporary end curve. He's going to be working on that later. Now I've removed the weights on the inner main line at the end curve, and I'm installing the outer main. It's easier to do one at a time because the Mountain Dew cans are wider than the track centres, so I can't put them side by side. And that brought up the end of the first day of track laying. And now I'm getting ready to install the missing spurs for the paper mill. You may see me climbing on the benchwork over there on that temporary piece of plywood. Note that I did screw it down to the benchwork first, because if I were to climb on that while it's free to move, it would be a broken leg waiting to happen. I'm not going to take that chance. See, the first two spurs are fairly long. They go all the way across that hidden benchwork area and curve around and turn parallel to the edge of it. Originally, I was going to make the other spurs longer as well. You saw me install one of them, and then I took it out again because I realized it didn't make any sense for the other four spurs to go deeper into the plant. The one at the far end that I'm working on now, right in the middle of the frame, is the power plant spur, and then the three just in front of it are the various chemical delivery tracks. The two long ones that wrap around and go all the way to the end curve. They are assumed to be heading deeper into the plant, serving multiple car spots, and they're each long enough for about 10 cars. So there's plenty of additional switching opportunities in that area. And then with all those tracks glued down and weighted, it's back to the yard again. What I'm doing now is preparing the turnout for the set of long crossovers on the main line behind the yard. I'm getting those installed before I do the main yard area because I want to be able to climb on the benchwork if necessary to improve my position and be able to sight down the track. It's always best to be able to sight along track as you lay it because that's the best alignment tool that we have. And now Chris is climbing on the benchwork, installing some roadbed and a couple of yards of track that run around behind the helix. And then once he's done that, he'll move over to the temporary turnback curves at the end of the layout. And although there's a lot more track laying still to do, that's about all the camera was able to capture because it finally broke down. And I was forced to abandon the time-lapse photography on this project. That was the fourth GoPro camera that had let me down in the space of less than 2 weeks, and I just had enough of messing with them. That is all the video that I shot while I was in Minnesota on that last trip. And although I will be up there again sometime later this year, I don't know when that's going to be. So there might be a bit of a gap before I present another installment on this railroad. And also at the moment I don't own a camera that can do time-lapse, so this might be the last time-lapse video I produce for a while. Anyway, I hope it was worth watching, hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.